What's up, everybody, and welcome to another session with Throat Punch Monday. So this is an opener for season 3, and we're actually doing a special today recording because Vanessa Guillen's documentary came out. So this we're going to be talking about some hard subjects, so could be trigger warning. And I just wanted to warn our audience about that. I'm Pacific Tita, your host, otherwise known as Len with VTT Veteran Trash Talk, and I'm joined with is it Elena or Elena? Elena and Miss Linda. So they're also are part of our VTT community, and I'm so happy that you guys can join us today. So I think that today was a big deal because it's been a long time coming from what happened with Vanessa Guillen. I think it happened in 2020 during the pandemic, right? And then from like start to finish, it was just, there was so many holes and a lot of letdown during that case, a lot of letdown. And fortunately, her family didn't stop fighting. And we're joined here with Elisa. Hi, Elisa.
Hi.
So you didn't miss much. We just started, and to the point where they found her, and then the legislation and just trying to get justice, right? So how many of you guys watched it today? Okay. And I know Elisa just got home from work because she's on West Coast time.
I really want to watch it. I definitely do. I've just recently seen about it, so I'm definitely going to.
Yeah, it actually just aired today.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of just want to get you guys' thoughts and feelings initially. It is a tough subject. It hit all of us, especially women in the military, pretty hard. And it kind of resonated with us, right? With the whole I am Vanessa Guillen movement. I know for me, I was extremely upset. It brought up a lot of emotions. It was also triggering, and I couldn't help but like tear throughout that documentary. Not because I knew her, but because we know the situation, because we know what it's like to go through that, right? For your chain of command, or for people to act like whatever happened didn't really happen, or for you to have to fight for your voice to be heard. Like, I'm here, I'm in uniform, I'm doing the same freaking job as everybody else. Why is it if I speak up, oh, she's just a female, like it's nothing, let's just sweep it under the rug, right? I mean, so how did you feel about the situation? I'll just open up the floor. Whoever wants to go first can go.
What I found difficult was when their higher up chain of command of Fort Hood, 2 months after they found out that she was missing, 2 months after, saying that, oh, let's find Vanessa Guillen. I'm like, why didn't you say that when she first became missing? And why? Overall, it was pretty effed up what Fort Hood and her chain of command didn't do to help her, to help a soldier in their own community. Like, why wouldn't you even? It baffles my mind that nothing happens in the beginning, and that the fact 2 months after her being missing, that the 2-star general, oh, we want Vanessa Guillen to come home, or whatever the case may be. Like, that's a long time, 2 months.
Do you think that anything would have happened if her family didn't speak up, or the media didn't get involved?
I don't think anything
Probably
would have happened.
not. She would have probably just been written off as being AWOL. She just left, and it would have been just that. There were a lot of red flags initially, just because, like, you know, they had said when they went back, her keys were there, her wallet was there, all the stuff that she left behind. Should have been initial red flags, that she stepped away and probably planned on coming back and never came back.
Right. It's just so
So,
extremely,
guys, I'm just getting over
it's
COVID
so
last week.
frustrating, right? Because if her family, turns out they hired like a private search party company who
Mhm.
specializes on missing people. And thankfully they did that, and thankfully they got the media involved and they didn't stop protesting. What's frustrating is that they didn't mention it in the documentary, but they found a bunch of other unalived people
Yes.
in the search for her, right? And so
Yeah.
what is going on with Fort Hood? You know, like, and they're in trouble. It's not like they're the only base who has problems, right? But they don't have a great reputation. They had like 2 mass shootings, several sexual assault, sexual harassment cases. Like it's like never ending. And
Yeah.
I've seen some conspiracy stuff about that too. Lisa, what are your thoughts about it?
I was actually gonna bring that up. So
Mhm.
I was stationed kind of close to Fort Hood at Dias. So it's in Abilene, Texas. It's just a few hour drive. Those 2 mass shootings happened during my active duty enlistment. So I was already pretty suspicious of Fort Hood for quite some time. And then this definitely, just everything that happened with Vanessa made it that much worse. And I remember making a post. I can't word for word. I don't remember exactly what I said. I just remember getting so angry because there was some type of article where they tried to imply it had nothing to do with like sexual harassment, for example, or sexual assault, and they were trying to remove anyone in the unit from blame. I thought I also saw something else about trying to put the blame on someone who was already dead. Um, I'm not quoting anything word for word because I know so many things have come out with this story. I just remember seeing that very obvious attempt to sweep everything under the rug and like get everyone quiet over it. It just didn't add up, and I've had concerns that there's something huge going on with the base, perhaps involvement in, who knows, like anywhere from middle to high ups involvement with illegal activities. Like why have there been so many people showing up like missing but then showing up dead?
Right. And I have those same questions too. And unfortunately, I've been seeing on social media, I've saw on TikTok, on Twitter, that this is still happening. I don't know if you guys heard, but there is like a case in Germany where this woman she FaceTimed her family and she asked them, "Oh, can you record? Can you record? Because I want everyone to see that I am not in this, like, I am not suicidal. I'm in distress. I need help, blah, blah. I was assaulted. I don't know if it was sexually or not, but she was being attacked." And she asked her chain of command for help and nothing came of it. Her family also asked, and she was stationed overseas in Germany. And couple weeks later, she was found unalived in her room, and they ruled it a suicide or something like that.
Oh, I
And
just
then
recently heard that. I didn't
and
know the details of
mhm.
it.
And then they and this is hearsay. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it was on I get a lot of stuff on TikTok. So I'm not saying that like it's a credible source, but there's a lot of service members on there that are posting and doing videos. And apparently there was an order like for the whole base to not talk about it. And this guy talked about it and then he was unalived. So, I mean, it's kind of weird. And like I said, like it's haunting because I mean, this is still happening, even though, I mean, we can't control, there's gonna be crazy people in the military. There's gonna be in any um place of job, right? But military is a big condensed community, and you're gonna get those people still. Um, but why do you guys think that if you reach out for help to your chain of command, why do you think that people are not getting the help that they need?
I think they want to sweep it under the rug because they don't want it to be a bothersome, or like, oh, if this happens under my watch, then my credibility is shot. I think that has a lot to do with people not wanting to report or backlashing and everything. But like, if a commander actually does what he or she needs to do and actually does a good investigation, it could come a positive way if they find him or her, or it could go a negative way. So regardless, if you're gonna sweep it under a rug, overall it's gonna be a negative thing, and it's gonna be a shot at like, oh, the army is pretty reckless and everything.
Right. I think if a lot of people feel like they're gonna feel ostracized because it's not something that you want to be proud of, or just walk around with kind of like a scarlet letter, like, oh, this
Right.
happened to so and so, like, be careful because she'll report you, or you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like you just feel that way sometimes, or you don't feel safe because that command didn't create that culture where you felt safe enough to tell anybody. And unfortunately it still happens. But I mean, we did see that the family did push for legislation, right? And so
Yeah.
that the I Am Vanessa Guillen Act passed. Unfortunately it didn't pass the first time, but I'm glad that they passed it, and that's also pretty emotional.
Right.
So they made sexual harassment an actual crime under the UCMJ.
And
Before
it
it
takes
wasn't.
it, yeah, and it takes it away from your immediate chain of command.
Right.
Like, they don't get to decide.
Or they have 72 hours to get an outside investigator to
Mhm.
come investigate and see if charges need to be brought.
Yeah.
And I've been out for a while, so I haven't seen that in effect. I know that they just was that bill just signed this year in January 2022, or the executive order. So I'm not sure how that is, but Elisa, you work on base, right? And are you still a mental health counselor there?
And now I'm a behavioral health
Oh,
consultant
okay.
for primary care clinic, but
Mhm.
definitely something I want to look into because these investigations shouldn't be done within the unit. There's
Mhm.
definitely too much bias. There's too much of a chance that both the victim and perpetrator are going to be known by the people around them, and chances are favoritism is going to come into play. So I it's a good thing to bring up. I have a question that I want to ask my supervisor tomorrow about the
Mhm.
policy on this space in 29.
Uh,
With my incident in Alaska, um there was other females that got hurt before my assault and harassment by the same NCO. And there
can you tell
was
us what years you served, just so we could get like a
from
picture?
09 to 2020.
Okay, so fairly recent.
Yeah, I got out. I met boarded out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this was in between 2013 to December 2014. So I was only in Alaska for a year and a half. But there was other females that were being harassed and assaulted by this guy, and they didn't really come forward because this guy had a reputation of being the favorite NCO and everything like that. It took me 6 months to report my incident, and if it weren't for one, I had um, somebody who saw what a witness, and two, there was other females involved. So if it weren't for that, I don't think it wouldn't have gone anywhere because no one cared about it.
Right.
So the whole chain of command got fired and everything because I didn't do what they were supposed to do.
So and I hope you don't mind me asking questions about your
Okay.
personal situation. So you didn't report it until 6 months later of what happened to you, and you got assaulted.
Yeah.
And did you report it to the local authorities or to military police or to your command?
Military. Well, I didn't necessarily report it to my chain of command.
Mhm.
I didn't know who the sharp representative was in my company because I was brand new at the time when it happened. I saw flyers in the barracks about the battalion sharp victim advocates, so I went to them. I didn't go to my company level because I didn't know who it was,
Mhm.
which I think was a plus because I don't think they would have done anything.
Well, I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm glad that you're able to report it. So what came of the perpetrator that was involved? Were they discharged? Were they prosecuted? Did they
It
sweep
was
it under the rug?
prosecuted.
Uh-huh.
It was prosecuted. It was a long 3 days. Again, there was a lot of. I was put into a different unit because I was getting harassed by everyone in it and everyone about my original unit in Alaska. And there was so many people that spoke for him, and I'm like, I like coming
Right.
from my first unit at Fort Benning where there wasn't any harassment, there wasn't any like negative female or sexual, verbal, whatever slang words. And so it was like 180-degree difference. I'm like, what is going on? Like, how do you guys not see this guy being so inappropriate around females? So, and
Because
the
they're turning a
stuff that,
blind eye and they're like, oh, that's just how he is, blah, blah, blah,
right.
right?
And I was
That's
like, oh,
mhm,
that's the culture of
mhm,
this unit. I'm like, well, regardless of the culture, it's wrong.
correct.
So, but he got 15 months. He only did 10 months of good behavior, which means my victim impact statement had nothing to do with this full 15 months. I'm like, well, what was the point of a victim impact statement when he just
Yeah.
gets it? So,
Yeah. I mean, 15 months, I feel like that's not enough time.
right.
But yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you. And unfortunately, of people who have reported, it is 1 out of every 4 women in the military that get sexually assaulted. And that's sexually assault. And I'm not talking about harassment because you guys know that we experience that shit every day, harassment. Like it just to the point where it was kind of like, okay, what are they going to say to me next? Like, and I'm not saying like, oh, woe is me or anything. It's just like it was just part of that culture, right? And I served from, just to give you guys like a point of view time frame, I served from 2003 to 2013. Linda, what years did you serve?
I actually served from 95 to 2003,
Let's see.
2004. Yeah.
And how was the culture back in 95?
Back then the culture was a lot different, right? It
Mhm.
was just, just
Was it
go on
Army
about
also?
your business. And I was never sexually assaulted.
Mhm.
Like Elena said, the bases were different. Just different mentalities. Like my first duty station was Fort Bragg, and
Mhm.
the guys in my unit were just so great. They were super overprotective of me. If Linda was drunk, someone was taking me to my room, they were locking my door, they were sliding my key under the door and leaving me in my room by myself.
That's awesome.
They
Mhm.
were always, where is she? Because I used to like to wander off when I drank a lot.
Yeah.
But I always had someone, keeping an eye on me. They took really good care of me. I was at Fort Hood. That was my last duty station. But I was only there for a little bit. And it was right around the time, units were first deploying to Iraq. So there wasn't too much going on base in
Mhm.
general. So I didn't have any issues when I was at Fort Hood.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And that's why we have a whole panel of women so we can talk about our different experiences, just to show that obviously it's not everybody, but we do experience some form of harassment to an extent. And you could still work with your male counterpart and still be civilized, right? And Elisa, how was your experience? I know you went to the desert. And tell us what years you served and what branch.
Yes. So 2008 to 2014, active duty Air Force, 2014 to 2018 reservist. And yeah, I had my Afghanistan deployment in 2012. There was I would say probably early on within the first couple of years, there was definitely a sexual harassment situation going on in my work unit. I'm trying to be as vague as possible. And how can I explain it? This person, it seemed that they were fishing to see what they could get. You know what I mean?
What they could get away with.
Mhm.
Exactly. And
Not
because
part of the big fish, yeah.
absolutely, when more girls started to come out, it started to become apparent that this was something where he was fishing with every girl and seeing what he could get.
Ah, okay.
Person was pranked.
Mhm.
And then but it what it came down to was the person was pushed out early, and that was about it. And yeah, a lot of awkwardness with that. Lucky for I also had a bit of a peeping tom situation one time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
my door was really creepy, and I have not been assaulted, luckily.
I mean, and what would we classify that though as peeping Tom? Because I would feel violated, right? Because
It-
we were
would
on a
too.
ship, so I was in the Navy, and like our walls are like as thin as metal, and there's like you could literally poke like a hole or screw or something in there and like take it out and look. And I didn't mean to cut you off, Elisa.
no,
But there was
it's-
a case a few years ago on a sub. I think I forget what it was, and they first allowed women on a submarine, and they had the peeping tom, and they were exchanging photos, and the submarine is small in itself. There's probably like 100 people on there, if that, and they only had 2 women. So, um, so I mean, do you think a peeping tom would be? Would that be SA or SH?
oh man, that's probably a gray area. I mean, I'll just
Yeah.
say what happened. Tell me what you guys think about it. Like I was in my dorm room. I was getting changed, 100% naked, but my curtains were 100% closed, as were my I was changing in front of my mirror. All of a sudden, this guy, the only reason he knew me is because in passing, 2 dorms down. So just in passing, hi, bye, whatever. And then all of a sudden he's banging on my door, just banging and calling my name and banging on it. And I'm like, just a minute, just a minute. I finally get to throw on some clothes, and I open it, and he says to me, I just need to tell you that I saw you completely naked, and you just got to be careful because, there's people around here. And, I'm just standing there looking at him like, you mean like you like stared looking through I shut the door in his face, like, long story short, and I blocked him
Mhm.
from Facebook because we had become Facebook friends. But again, like, there was no dates, no advance, like no hints that I'd ever given. Then I tested what happened, and I decided to test it. I'm like, let me see, maybe he was being nice. And I walked by my window, and I realized that for him to have seen me, he would have had to have looked through a tiny centimeter, about that small, to be able to see my naked
So
reflection.
he's like, you got to be careful. Tape your curtains to the wall.
And
Tape,
to each
like,
other.
duct
Like,
tape. Like,
yeah.
he would have had, it was like that tiny,
Yeah.
right? Had to have seen me through the reflection of the mirror. It was no way someone just casually passing would have seen me naked. No way.
Yeah. Like he was intently watching. Well, what I find interesting is that Vanessa Guillen, in the documentary, they said that she was sexually harassed when she was in the field in the woods, and she
Mhm.
was doing some personal hygiene,
Yeah.
and so they called it sexual harass while she was doing that. Like, that's fucking gross, bro. Like, I don't know what they mean by personal hygiene. Like, I can just only imagine, like, I'm doing a bunch of personal hygiene in the woods. I'm in the field. Like, dude, let me shit in peace, pee in peace, change my pad in peace, something like, what the people, it's like, at some point, like, I get it that we eat, breathe, and live and shit all together. But if you're an opposite gender and I'm in the woods by myself, I would not want those advances or anyone coming up to me saying, hey, what's up? Or like harassing
Yeah,
me.
respect your privacy.
Yeah,
and your-
exactly. Right. So, um, for, with me, I was essayed twice in the military and I only reported it once. The first time was, so you guys call it AIT school, right? For the Army. In the Navy, we call it A school.
Okay.
So I was in A school and this was in Virginia, and I didn't report it because obviously it was a friend, right? It's someone I knew. And I was like, okay. And it didn't, nothing happened. I woke up in the middle of him trying to, and so it stopped, right? But then I was still mortified. And then it happened again when I was on my second ship with somebody who I deployed with already twice and who was a close friend. And we were at a party, and we're all drunk. And I think I'm safe because I'm around friends, right? Because Linda, I normally hang out with people like what you said. I was like the little sister. And
Yeah,
my
there's
core,
they're
my core
usually the ones
group
that are
of
looking out.
friends, right? They weren't in my unit. They were um, in a different division, I would say. So like I was in ops, and my core group of friends is supply. When I go out on deployment, I hang out with them. But this wasn't my core group of friends. This was my coworkers. So it was my coworkers and we were hanging out. And I actually called the local police, and it was actually um a friend of mine that called. But so that's how everything got involved. And then word got back to the command, and then everyone's whispering like, oh my God, look at her. She's lying. We did 2 deployments together. He's such a good dude. There's no way that he could do that. I'm like, how the fuck would you know what he did to me if you weren't there? Like, who are you to tell me? And then at one point, the chain of command was like, oh, she parties too much. That's why. Or she drank.
Yeah, they
Or
put the blame.
she's too pretty. That's why.
Victim blaming.
Yeah,
You know, and I'm not trying to
blaming and
blow my head up or
shaming.
anything,
Yeah.
but that's exactly what happened. And so I was really like traumatized. So I actually told the police, like I went through the whole rape kit and all of that. And I told them, I don't want to press charges. I don't want to go through this. I don't want to relive this, because investigators came. They were just like relentless, like asking all these questions, and they were bringing in all my friends in, and my friends were getting overwhelmed. And I was like, I just don't want to do this. So I think the DA picked up the case, and then they tried to transfer me off the ship, and they tried to get rid of me. I'm like, what? I didn't do shit. I'm the fucking victim here. Like,
Right.
excuse me? Fuck no. So I
Yeah.
stood up for myself. I was like, no, you're not fucking transferring me. I don't want to go to whatever ship they were trying to send me to. I was like, nope. I'm like a star sailor. You know, I did what I had to do. I was like one of the number one, like, I guess what you guys would call NCOs.
Right.
We were petty officers. So, but I was like one of the number ones, like, bro, no, that's not happening. So I honestly don't know what came of him, because I didn't follow any stories and I just blocked everything off. And at that time, we were just out to sea a lot. And so I didn't really have social media like how we do today. So
Right.
I don't fucking know. So that's why a lot of the story of I am Vanessa Guillen also, it really resonates with me. It really makes me sad. And I know that I'm not the only one. And I'm happy that you're here, Elena, to tell us your story, because it's so hard to come out and talk about it.
Right.
Like right now I'm like kind of sweating, and my palms are
You got the fan
clammy,
going. Yeah.
you know, and I have this ring light here, and I'm like,
Mm.
but I try to get, and like I said, I asked earlier who wanted to come on and talk about you know, the whole Vanessa Guillen thing, because it affects all of us.
Right. It
It's
does.
therapeutic talking about it. And there
Yeah.
was more than you guys that said me, you know, I want to, but I understand that the other girls who don't want to talk about it because it's hard. Right. But
Yeah.
that's why we're here, is to show that we're resilient, we're strong, we're not victims. We're actually taking control of our own situations.
I
Right.
think with me, because I had 2 incidences. One I did not report because it was sexual abuse and it was with another coworker. And he was older than me, but I was higher in rank. So I thought I was going to get in trouble. So I didn't report it till the year that I got out, which was last year, which was 3 years after the whole shit ended. So it didn't go anywhere because there's no evidence and everything. But between that and going inpatient back and forth because it hit me hard with depression, PTSD, and all that. And doing especially exposure therapy is harsh. So listening to myself about going through the trauma, plus like when I was in Alaska, telling the CID, telling this person, telling that person, telling the prosecutors, like it was so ingrained in me. So it's not difficult for me. I will get red faced because I'm blonde and everything. I will get red faced and blush, but like I don't get upset as much as I did when it first happened or when I first talked about my second one, because I didn't talk about it for 3 years. So I do because I live right next to Fort Lee, so I do speak at sharp events because I want other people to know what they can do.
Right.
Like you don't have to go to straight to your chain of commands. You can go to battalion, you can go to brigade, you can go to division. Because when I first happened in Alaska, I was like, I don't know who to go to. I don't know. Like, and knowing that I could go to battalion level without getting like yelled at, and I did get yelled at, but he got fired because he yelled at me. Because he was my platoon sergeant, like, why didn't you come to me? Blah blah blah. I'm like, because 1, I didn't know you. 2, you're an idiot. Like you're the worst platoon sergeant ever. Like, and he didn't stop the harassment either when I came back to the unit after I made the report. But just to let soldiers know, especially junior enlisted, because I was junior enlisted at the time in Alaska, that you don't have to go to your commander or your platoon sergeant or your sergeant, whatever the case may be. You can go up higher and they will take care of you.
That's awesome that you do that. Now, is that what you do for a living now that you're out of the military?
No, I don't. I do it whenever I have time. I'm currently in school for early childhood development, but I do still in contact with the SHARP team on Fort Lee that took care of me during when I reported my Fort Bragg incident. So, and I go to their SHARP events and everything, and if they want me to talk, I'll talk.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. When it happened to me back in the early 2000s, I didn't know anything about that. And I think in the military they call it SARP, SARP.
I know in the Air Force it's like that, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Like I only know the Navy, and I'm learning about SHARP because I have a lot of Army friends. But actually, Lisa, you're in the Air Force. What's the program called?
SARC.
SARC, okay.
RC. At least last I remember for sure.
Because when I was in Alaska, it was joint base with Army and Air Force. They call it the SARB, or I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Well,
One of
you know
those.
what?
Yeah, I don't even know what it would have been when I was in,
Well, I don't think
or if there was
because
anything that was,
well, they just called it because I remember between when they had sexual assault harassment under EO in the Army.
Mhm.
They didn't have it separate. And
Yeah.
then when I went to Alaska, that's when they're like, oh, this is when we're going to start the SHARP program for the Army, sexual harassment, assault, response prevention program. But when I was at Fort Benning, my first duty station, it was just under EO. So it's a fairly new program.
It's awesome. That's good to know the programs, especially that the base near you has someone like you to reach out and talk to people. And that's mainly like why we do these podcasts or these sessions is it's number one, it's therapeutic. Number two, it's promoting, mental health and getting the resources that you need. But yeah. Um, do you guys think that because the incident happened during 2020 that COVID played a really big part? Do you think that that's why they took too long to start the investigations, or is it just a systematic failure?
I think
Or
it's a
both?
systematic. I don't think
Mhm.
yeah,
COVID
I think
should
it
have
was a
been
little
an
bit of
issue
both
at all.
because
Mhm.
because they weren't working on base, so it may have those red flags could have been triggered a lot faster had
Mhm.
it been the regular day to day. Oh, she's not here this morning. She didn't show up for PT, or she didn't show up. Um, you know, the fact that they were just going on base saying, that, oh, the guy that killed her said he was on there doing some training or something.
Mhm.
I think they said he was initially being held already for breaking COVID protocols.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm. And why does investigations take 5 to 6 months just so you can corroborate the fact that she did get sexually harassed? Why does it take that fucking long?
Well,
You
it
know,
took
like
even longer than that
Yeah,
because
that took
it
too long.
wasn't till what 2021 when they were like, yes, there were because at first they did a press release like I saw this obviously on the document saying that there was no evidence of sexual harassment. And then I think it was like a year and a half later that yes, there was sexual harassment involved and also assault. I'm like, why did it take you a year and a half to finally do the investigation of saying that yes, she was being harassed?
exactly.
Instead of lying to us and saying that there's no evidence. We talked to everybody in the unit and there was no evidence that he was harassing. I was like, well, that's BS. So
I
Yeah,
kind
because chances are if he was doing it to one person, she wasn't the first person.
right.
And she probably wouldn't have been the last had that incident not occurred.
Right.
That's kind of what I want to see, like a more in-depth documentary, like of what happened to each person involved, the command, the higher chain of command, because we know like eventually the people got fired, right?
They did. Okay. I wasn't sure if
Eventually.
they did. Okay.
Yeah, eventually like some of those people got fired or transferred or whatever. So I wanted to kind of see everything that, went on, like kind of like a true crime documentary, right? That we're so used to seeing. But I like the fact that it was from the family's perspective. So it gave us a different perspective of how the civilians had to fight through this military system, which was a whole other ordeal. And now they're suing the DOD.
Yep. It's
You
pretty
know,
big.
I know, good.
As they should. They should.
Mm-hmm. Well, do we have any final thoughts that we want to share or anything before we get off of this podcast?
Well, a couple of you guys had kind of highlighted how bad you were treated, post the assaults, and it's just one thing that I remember highlighting in my book at one point. PTSD is very easy to punish in the military.
It is.
Very, very, the symptoms, everything that comes out of it. And when people aren't asking the right questions and instead just punishing the behavior versus looking at the root cause, or, refusing to see the root cause, that's a big part of the issue. And that's also why one of my favorite things to do when I was working for the VA was helping my clients with their MST claims, because oftentimes they were not given fair trial, or they could not come forward at all for a variety of reasons. And there was not a lot of evidence, even though it did happen. And I was always very happy to um, write a narrative for them and help them, assist them as they created their statement, because it was, rehashing a lot of difficult things. So when they did get service connected, to me, that was a feat, because I saw just how the DoD was failing people in that.
That's why I was kind of glad that I was doing the med board side, because they had the evidence there, so I didn't have to fight the VA once I got out, because they're like, okay, there you go, the Army said so and so, so I don't have to fight for that on
So-
that aspect.
So are you like 100 PNT now, or?
Yeah.
I know it's none of my business, but
No, you're good.
yeah. I
No,
mean,
I had 32 claims, like 100
Wow.
PNT is not that difficult under my medical issues. So.
well, we're gonna have to talk about another episode with all our VA stuff and
Okay.
see how we got to where we got. You know what I mean? So
Just like a quick thing, like if anyone, because the last year I was at Fort Lee, a year and a half before I got med boarded, or during the med board process. But if you need to get mental health help, do so. Like, don't hesitate to do that to help yourself. I was in and out of hospitals left and right my last year, and a couple of times my first year out. But don't hesitate to ask for help when you need it, especially trauma related issues too.
that's really good advice. That's really good advice. I wish I did that. But I got out on time. Well, I went to the VA shortly after I got out. So I did all of that within the first year. And so within the first year, it's
Right.
considered part of active. So I didn't know that, but I did it.
I
so.
didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's considered still like military related because it's been within a year.
Within a year. Okay.
Linda, any final thoughts?
No, I just feel like, we are a big community, and I think we still do have, a lot of women that are on active duty or in the reserve units, and they just need to be aware of the programs that are out there, to help them, or just to, encourage them to speak out, because, like in my situation, it was a field training. We were at NTC, and I was the only female that went with my platoon. It was just, I was felt up one night. I pretended like I was still asleep. The next morning I packed up my shit, walked around the mountain, and set up my cot outside underneath the camel net where the meal van was at the entrance of the field ASP. And I slept out there by myself the whole time in the box, because I wasn't gonna sleep in the tent with the guys.
Right.
And it was like, in your situation, it was somebody that I knew. It was my fellow NCOs, right? They were going out and getting drunk while we were in the box, and then coming back drunk. Yeah. So in the end, they all ended up getting sent back early, and the platoon sergeant was gone by the time we got back to Colorado, because we went from Colorado to California. Don't know what happened to him, but he wasn't even anywhere around. Had nothing to do with my situation, just the fact that it was found that they were going out and drinking during the live fire exercise.
Right.
And my soldiers, because I had a squad, they were the ones that were like, look, that's not right that they're doing that. They made us late for our appointment. We ended up having to just really scramble there at the end. And so when my soldiers reported it, so then I'm like, okay, well, now something has to be done, right? So they sent that platoon sergeant and the other couple of guys that were going out and drinking. They just basically said, pack your shit, you're leaving now. You don't get to do anything else out here. And left my squad to finish turning in all the ammunition, and they
No
left the
articles,
lieutenant-
no NJPs, no captain's mask.
I
That's
think you
so
guys
weird
were
to me.
there. Yeah, it was so weird that nothing happened
Mhm.
with that whole drinking incident, because that could have, you know, turned into something completely different,
Mhm.
especially out there operating forklifts and driving, you know,
Yeah.
heavy wheel
And
trucks.
having a weapon too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Thanks
Yeah,
for sharing
so,
that, Linda. I
Yeah.
know it's hard to talk about. It's,
yeah.
I hate
And
that
I didn't
for
talk
you.
about it for a lot of years because,
Mhm.
you know, I removed myself from the situation
Mhm.
and just left it at that.
Right. Yeah. Well, like you said, we have a big community, right? A lot of us are veterans, especially the ones that are watching this or listening to this. Find your tribe. Find your tribe. Find people that you can talk to. Find something that'll make you feel happy, make you feel better, because I still go through episodes. I still have nightmares. I still, you know, I have PTSD. I can't get rid of it. It's there forever. Sometimes I have my highs, sometimes I have my lows, you know.
Yeah.
But you need to find people to talk to,
Mhm.
or you need to find something, an activity that makes you feel good. It's easier said than done.
It
And
is.
for a lot of us, after getting out the
Yeah.
military, we don't want to socialize at all. Leave me the fuck alone, right? So it takes a lot. It takes a lot just to put yourself out there. But I promise you, once you do it, you won't regret it. Once you find your
Yeah, I'm
tribe, you
still
won't regret
getting
it.
there. I hit my 2 years out this past September 20.
So
No,
you're
September
in
14.
Virginia, right? You're in
I
Virginia?
am
Okay.
right outside of Fort Lee.
Okay. I was just in Virginia a few months ago. If I would have known you then, I would have invited you out because I do these
Okay.
veteran hikes.
Well, like I'm in school and I just got out of
Well-
the army and I'm like, I don't know what to do with my
Well, we
life.
do these
I might
veteran
go to
hikes, and it's not under
but-
VTT, and I'm not sponsored, but I do it with IW, and we go all over the nation and do these hikes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah,
Because I think
so-
it'll be better once I get my job that I want after school.
Mhm.
It'll be a lot better because I'll be around people because I'm really
Yeah.
not around that many people. I do use the VA, their recreational therapy. I do that once a week. So that's
it's especially if
possible
you just
decision.
got out. It's only been 2 years. Like for me, it took me a long time to find my purpose of like what I actually enjoyed doing, and that
Right.
is
And
being
what you
still.
wanted to be when you grow up.
Yeah, I
exactly.
still don't know
Just
what I want to
like,
be with when I
I
grow
don't
up.
know
but-
what to do when I get out of the
what I
army.
wanted to be
Like,
when I grow up.
Yeah.
it was
But-
definitely like when they first told me that they were gonna med board me, and I was like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? Like,
Because they
what am I-
scare
I've
you
been
so
in-
much to
I've been in
staying
for
in.
11 years. Like,
Mhm.
oh my goodness, I was so freaked out. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, I can work with children. So
They kind of like program you, and I don't want to say
Right.
brainwash. They kind of program you to be like military. This is your whole entire life. Military. What are you gonna do
Right.
without the military? Right. But then you soon figure it out when you get out, like, oh, there is life outside the military. And
right,
that's what I was gonna say. Like, it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do. Well, my video went out. What I wanted to do when I got out, and I found that my passion is working with veterans.
right,
And, you know, I mean, that's not what I do for a job. That's actually what I do as a hobby.
right, which is
So,
great.
yeah, let me change my dang camera. Okay. Here we go.
Now- Mostly with the spouses, and really interesting. I've gone full circle from active duty to veterans and now the spouses mostly. It's
Mhm.
really cool to see it from every lens.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah, I've been on the spouse side also. It's definitely, I love seeing the dependent groups. I don't want to offend anyone about dependa, but there's some shit that goes on. Like I've had past episodes.
We were
about it.
both, right? We were.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna cut it there because I mean we can keep going, but I do want to have you guys on another time. Elena, I wanna get with you, and Elisa, thanks again for joining us. You're always available when I need you, and I love your insight. Linda, thanks so much. And thank you guys so much for being part of the VTT community. Again, it's about helping veterans. I know we trash talk, right? But our whole mission is to, save lives, promote businesses, get veteran jobs, get us out there.
Well, thank you
So-
for the invite. So
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It takes a lot of courage. And you guys show a lot of strength and courage today. And I'm going to go ahead and sign us off. If you haven't checked out our website, it's www.veterantrashtalk.com. You can find our shirts and our shop there and the rest of our podcasts there. There's several podcasts, not just this one. And also, this is the opening to my season 3 of Throat Punch Mondays. Okay, so we're live recording right now, but this is going to air on a
Awesome.
Monday. Season 3 opener. I already have a few episodes recorded and they're pretty good. We talk about fighting and drinking, and strip clubs. So my name's Len. I'm joined with Elena, Linda, Elisa. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. And I'm going to go ahead and stop this.
All right, thanks. Bye.